Good evening. My name is Jill LaPlante. I'm the Director of Counseling Services for the Amity School District. The counseling departments at Amity, Pomperaug, Fairfield, and Trumbull schools have partnered to offer multiple virtual presentations that will explore a variety of topics to address all students' post-secondary goals geared to students in the class of 2022. Tonight is the first of those presentations. We are lucky to have with us a panel of students from various schools, as well as Anne Fleming Brown, Director of Admissions at Union College in Schenectady, New York, who will discuss the various components of the college application process. So without further ado, I'll turn the program over.
Hello and welcome all. And I'm very grateful for these students who are representing each of your schools. And I imagine by the end of the evening, we're going to come to the conclusion of which school is better, Fairfield Ludlow or Fairfield Ward. Is that correct? So here we go. You're thinking about your college process over the next year. Even in these strange times, you still have a year to consider the colleges that you're going to look at and apply to and evaluate as you go forward in your process. But I want you students and parents as well to start with the end in mind. You're not looking for the best college in the country to go to. You're looking for the college where you will find a happy, healthy, successful college career. You want to be the person who's able to take advantage of every opportunity offered by that college. You want to know what you're going to study and try to do that, but also add some new things that you hadn't anticipated before you go through your entire college experience. Not only am I the director of admissions at Union, but I'm lucky to be a parent who's gone through this process twice. Our children went to college. If only I'd known that they'd only go to colleges that began with the letter B, it would have simplified our process. But they had chosen different colleges, found a wonderful life there, taken advantage of opportunities that they might not have thought possible before they went to college. So, students, the first set of things you need to think about involves brainstorming. You know the simple questions, the questions like large or small, urban or rural, suburban and urban. Do you want a beautiful confined campus? Do you want extracurricular activities? Do you want Union College, which 6 years ago our men's hockey team won the national championship in men's ice hockey? So that would be a good reason to go to college. You need to think about all the things you want to study and add some things that you haven't thought of yet, subjects that you haven't had a chance to take yet. Maybe those subjects would be economics or anthropology, sociology. Maybe you'd like to study geology and you haven't taken it since you were in middle school. Think about all the things that are in your interest areas right now. Do you want to be in an environment where the faculty members know you, know your name, know your work, and you can go to their offices and talk about that experience? Or would you like to be in a large university where you're going to learn in a large classroom, but the community life is absolutely wildly varied and exciting? And maybe there's a great football program or basketball program or something exciting for you to participate in. You're going to start to do some internet searches, but for heaven's sakes, use your critical thinking skills and look at different sources of information on different colleges. If you listen only to people who are the age of your parents or the age of your parents' friends, colleges have improved greatly over that time. One way is please ask your parents, or parents, you can tell your children what the food was like when they went to college. It was awful. And now food is absolutely wonderful at every college that you go to. So just talk about some of those differences and experiences. Use the Naviance, use the resources that you have at each of your schools, score, or look at the College Board search and start to put in things, elements that are important to you and to think about those. As a sidelight, of course, I'd like you to all put Union on your list. But as you look at the colleges that are on your list, just think about the things that you can learn now. Even if you're not able to visit a lot of colleges, and there are many colleges here in upstate New York, we're open on the weekends, or we have Friday tours or something like that that you can participate in. But you can do so many virtual programs. You can visit colleges all over the country now, just investing 1 hour of your time in their virtual program, and start to assess what you like about a particular college, what you don't like, why you connect with it. What do you learn about it more than what you've read online? So take advantage of all of those opportunities, whether they're virtual tours of the campus, whether it's an open house program that a college offers virtually, or panels about different academic areas that you may be interested in. Look also for recent graduates from your high schools. You go to wonderful high schools with extraordinary counseling staffs. And all of your high schools have students who have gone to fantastic colleges across the country. So if you're looking at a college like Union, look for the older sibling of one of your friends who goes to Union and talk to them about their experience. Reach out and say, I'm looking at colleges and I'm looking at the college you attend. What was your experience of coming from Pomperaug to that college? Were you well prepared? Were there challenges? How was it different? You know my high school community. Tell me about your college community. Everybody's going to be flattered to receive that kind of message or hear from you, or a text even. All of that is good. So you also want to look now at how colleges have managed this past year. It's been a very challenging year for a lot of colleges. Some have been able to keep students on campus. Some have been entirely remote. You can learn about a lot of those things right on the websites. One thing I want you to think about for college is, what kind of life do you want? Do you want to just study? Some people do. They just want to pursue their academic subjects, maybe do intensive research, maybe prepare for a graduate or professional program. Do you want what I would call a work-life balance, where you're looking both at your academic life and your extracurricular life in college? That's another kind of experience to have. And I hope that by the time summer comes, you are going to be able to have a more natural and normal college visit. You know, we're going to give you a free water bottle and take you on a tour of the campus, give you a group information session, and let you meet some of our students. I hope that that's the case starting in the summer, so look forward to that. So when we start to do traditional college tours, usually students travel with a parent or a guardian to visit a college. Sometimes it's an aunt or an uncle, an older sibling, could be any number of people. But we're going to assume all of those groups are called parents or guardians, and then there is the student. So we have decided as a group that they are going to represent the answer student. Show it to me now with one finger. Yes, my finger is Anna, your finger up, beautiful. And if it's parents, show me. Two, excellent. That's the parent symbol. So here we go. When you finally get to go on your college trip, who plans which colleges you go to visit? Oh, it's complete. Oh, there's some indecision. Miles is thinking maybe parents. He's just doing this a little bit too. Okay, good. By majority, we've gone with students. I do think students that you can present colleges that you'd like to visit. We have, as I mentioned, two children. Our daughter was very angry with us early in high school one day, and she said to us, I would like to go to the University of Hawaii because it was the furthest possible college from our home that she could think of. So just remember, your parents may draw some lines around your goals. So you may not be able to go to the University of Hawaii. Your parents may want you to be within a 3-hour distance, or they may say you could go as far as Chicago, or they may say take advantage of the entire country and look at colleges everywhere to make the best match for you. That's a great conversation to have with them. Who plans the trip to visit colleges? Two on that one. Absolutely. Oh, no, Miles, I love your difference in answers. It's wonderful. So the story is, students, you don't know anything about getting from place to place yet. That's my observation of you. So parents are very good at planning the trips. Who will pay for the lunch when you visit the college? Okay, we're on that. Miles agrees. It will be the parents paying for the lunch. Who has the interview if an interview is available at that particular college? That's a 1, and parents should certainly stay in the lobby for that interview and not try to follow a student into an interview. Who should bring a book to read? Are you telling me that you students do not read? Okay, both of you. Excellent. So parents are going to bring a book to read or some entertainment that will allow you to wait patiently. Who should drive the car on these college trips? And again, a mix of answers. Miles, I'm assuming you have a license. Just bob your head up and no, you don't. Then, Miles, you should not drive the car. So just make sure you have a license. And of course, you know, the whole music thing, the person who gets the radio is the person who is driving the car. So you're going to have to listen to your parents' music. Now, here's the last set of questions in this area. When you are in a group information session at a college, who should ask the questions of the admissions person giving the group information session? Who does ask the questions in the group information session? Absolutely. Colby's got it. The parents ask and the students should. And I just would like to share a short story about our daughter with you. We were visiting a very beautiful college, Mount Holyoke College. It's a women's college in Western Massachusetts, Mount Holyoke College. Caroline raises her hand. I feel pride. I feel proud. My daughter is about to ask a question in a group information session at Mount Holyoke College. Here's her question. At Barnard, do you give credit for advanced placement work? Now, for those of you who are not familiar, Barnard is a different college, not Mount Holyoke College. And the admissions person was brilliant. And she said, today we're at Mount Holyoke. And at Mount Holyoke, we do give credit for advanced placement work. So our daughter was embarrassed. I was embarrassed, and I looked at the tips of my shoes. We didn't talk about it for 2 years, but she has given me permission to tell you that story. So on the tour, who should ask the questions, students or parents? Students. Who does ask the questions? Many times parents do. So parents, you can bring a small notepad, just pass the question to your son or daughter. There are questions that are just right for parents to ask. Those questions involve things like early decision or safety and security or how many students return to the sophomore year. There are questions that are almost uniquely parent questions about the health services or anything that relates to that kind of thing. So parents, don't surprise your children by asking new questions, but stick with those tried and true parent questions when you go through this college process. All right, we're ready to get to the big section here. Colleges over the last 20 years have grown their applicant pools to produce anxiety for all. They market more to potential candidates. They invite more students to apply to their schools, and they increasingly reduce the admit rate at each of the schools that they just reduce the number of students who are offered admission. So they're inviting a large number of students to apply. They're getting a smaller number who are admitted, and a lot of people are caught in the pinch of this competitiveness. All schools are looking for a balance of students. And I'm going to describe that balance for you by saying they need some generalists, or what we like to describe in society as a well-rounded person, and they need some angular candidates who have a particular interest or pursuit, something that they're really going to be able to bring to the college, a special talent of some kind. We're always looking for students who produce diversity for our particular college. That diversity could be from BIPOC students. That diversity could be from different states or countries. That diversity could be from different academic interests. Almost every college is looking for students to study classics, but you can't apply as a classics major if you never took Latin. You need to take Latin if you're going to apply as a classics major. Almost every college is looking for people who study hard sciences. Hard sciences is just a name for it. I don't know why. It's probably because they study objects, but chemistry or physics, always colleges are looking for students in those areas. So that's something to think about when you're applying, that there are a few majors that are always going to be of interest. If you're a convincing future philosophy major, colleges will be interested in you for that choice. But most of us fall in those large categories of areas of interest, whether it's biology or history, economics, political science, I think, has growing popularity around the recent elections. So all of those kinds of areas, you're going to have lots of different majors, lots of students applying in those majors. Every college has some obvious needs. You remember Union won the national championship in men's ice hockey 6 years ago. Did you remember that part already? Good. Thank you, Autumn. And so the we sometimes need a hockey goalie. But when I say sometimes, we do not need a hockey goalie every year. We need a hockey goalie every other year. So that's another thing that some colleges are going to use in their evaluation of candidates. All right, we're ready, Mrs. LaPlante, for the survey. Our students in this group have filled out a survey with the different elements that are part of the college application. To apply to college, students can use the Common Application Form or the Coalition Application Form, and those two forms cover almost every application in the whole country. Obviously, the most important part on your application is your name and your address and all those simple pieces of information that you're going to be able to use and complete and fill in. But here are some other pieces of the application beyond the very form itself that are very important in our consideration. And the students have voted which parts are the most important and which a little less important. So first we see that they voted the transcript number 1. Transcript number 1. Round of applause for the students. Transcript is absolutely number 1. They have followed that with extracurricular activities. Not number 2, but very important. With the essay, number 3. Not number 3, but very important. With standardized test scores as number 4. Counselor letter of recommendation, number 5. Interview, number 6. Teacher letter of recommendation, number 7. And special considerations, number 8. So we're going to do a little rearranging beyond the transcript portion of this. And each student has agreed to represent one part of the application. So let's start now with the number 1 most important part of the application, the transcript. Anna, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Anna. Would you tell us which school you represent?
I am from Fairfield Ludlow.
And is that the better?
I mean, I think it is, but I'm sure the Ward students will debate me on that.
All right, we'll get to them in a few minutes. So tell us now, what will be on your transcript?
Well, your transcript includes your GPA and your grades, but it also includes like the different classes you take and the rigor of those classes, whether it's college prep, honors, AP. So it's pretty important.
You could not have been more comprehensive. The only thing you didn't say about what appears on the transcript is, of course, the name of your high school. Is your high school a good high school?
Yes, I think it is.
So what's going to happen is colleges will look first and foremost at your transcripts from each of your schools, and they'll say, wow, this is a strong high school. Oh, Anna, stay with me. Don't go away. This is a strong high school where lots of good students apply to college, and these students do well when they come to our school, high school. So we're looking at your school and we're saying, this is a good school. That's one piece. All right, so tell me a little bit about grades. What is it important to have for grades on a transcript?
Well, I think your grades, like, they can help you give an idea of what type of schools are good for you to apply to, because that can tell you what school is going to be more of a safety or a target, since different schools like have different acceptance rates and look at different GPAs.
Absolutely. But in terms of your grades, should you improve over your high school years?
Yes, I think you should improve, but also I think sometimes, like, depending on the courses you take, because an easier ranked course, if you take an easy course like a college prep as a freshman, and then you're taking an AP as a junior, you might not have the same grades just because of the rigor of the class.
Absolutely true. But let's hold on rigor for just a minute and say, is it better to get good grades?
Yes.
Okay, it's so simple. Did your parents ever mention that to you, that it's a good idea to get good grades?
Yes.
Yes. And have teachers commented on that ever?
Yes.
Okay, Anna, give me a couple of ways that people in general can improve their grades, even a little bit.
Just putting in the effort to your work, like always a little more time spent can go a long way.
A little more time spent. And when you say a little more time spent, could 15 minutes be a little more time?
Yes, totally. Especially if it's something like you went to class and then you came home and you wrote notes about what you learned. That's going to help you remember. And in the long run, it'll help you out.
Fantastic. A little more time. You don't have to spend 2 hours more, a little more time, especially on those subjects that perhaps come less naturally to you. All right, think of another way to improve your grades.
I think reaching out to your teachers can be really important.
What an innovation! What a great idea! Absolutely. You all have wonderful schools with wonderful teachers. And you're not going to a teacher to quibble about a point on a test. You're going to say, what am I missing here? How can I do this better? Is there a way to improve this? When I'm writing this, how can I approach this differently? They will have so many ideas and resources for you. Maybe they'll have an idea for how you can approach a subject from a different angle that works better for your learning style. Maybe they have different ideas for how you can practice a particular piece you don't understand, or something you can read. They're going to have great ideas for you. And it's a wonderful idea, and it's often overlooked by students. In fact, it's often overlooked by college students because people are a little bit shy or they don't want to show their weakness. Anna, are you good at talking to teachers?
Yes, usually, like, for example, in my math class, when we have homework, there's like a little feature on the problem where you can ask your teacher for help. So if there's a problem I really don't understand, I'll click that little button and I can get a quick response from my teacher, which is really nice.
Wow, what a great idea. That's a very nice thing. So definitely, those are two great ways. So think of anything you can do to improve slightly. When we're in admissions committee, we put your transcript overhead on a big board, or everyone looks at their own computer if we're at home. And we all look at your transcript together. If you have improved over time, what do you think we do? We smile and pass the snacks. What if your grades have gone down over time? What do you think we do?
You can look in to see if there's a possible explanation for why.
Possible explanation. All right, let's talk about, may I share about our son who we named rather badly? His name is Chris Brown, and he's always called Chris Brown. Chris Brown, our son, played lacrosse. But from the story I'm going to tell you, you'll know that it was not his greatest talent. So a very famous lacrosse player in our town did a shot, and unfortunately my son ran into the shot and he broke his jaw. And he had his jaw wired shut. Don't worry, he can talk now. It's handsome. He's okay. But in those days, he was still in school. He was in the end of his junior year and his jaw was wired shut. How do you think that served him in terms of his academic work? Anna?
Well, would definitely not help if he had to ask a question or if his teacher gave participation points.
He just could only drink through a straw. There wasn't anything he could do to participate. He could write something, but he really couldn't even talk. So those are times when people are going to have something happen. And the good news is on applications, especially on the Common application, there's a section called additional information. In the additional information section, you say, I was limited by this experience I had in high school. You don't have to apologize for something that happened to you, but if you explain it, we can see the grades in light of that little time where you had a bump in the road. I was out of school for 2 weeks because I had a surgery, something along those lines. It is very helpful. Don't make us guess what happened to you if there was something that came along that happened to you. Just give us a little simple explanation so we can fit that into the bigger picture. Now, Anna has wisely wanted to talk about rigor. So Anna, how many advanced placement courses should a human being take?
Well, it really depends on what type of school they'd like to go to and how strong of a student they are and just generally their interests. Obviously, like APs can be very difficult. So if it's something that you have zero interest in, it might not make sense for you to take the class.
Okay, so you've given us a lot of information there. I think you're right about interest. If you want to take an AP and you're interested in it, you're likely to do better. In fact, if you're interested in any subject, you're likely to do better in that area, right? So, by the way, colleges are not going to tell you the truth about this all the time. I'm so sorry. They're going to say to you, remember, you need to take as many advanced or honors classes or AP classes as you can. How many does that mean is different for each and every college. So Union would be divinely happy with 4 advanced placement courses over your whole high school career. That would make us very happy. But if you were applying to one of the most competitive schools in the country, perhaps they would be looking for a larger number. There are many, many schools in this country that know you go to a good high school and aren't going to be concerned about APs at all. So the other question is this, Anna. How many APs should you take until you don't get a full night's sleep?
That is very, it really depends on where your strengths are, I guess, because I know that like a class that I struggle in, if I'm doing like if it's an AP class and I'm having a hard time, it's going to take a lot longer for me to do the work and study just so I can hope to account for that struggle.
Or the volume of work that you're given is larger, right? So
For sure.
please, in your own life, I hope you can see both my hands, in your own life, find that balance between living your life and taking the challenging courses. I want you to take challenging courses, but I also want you to stay healthy and not have to stay up every night until 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So find that balance. And for colleges, we're looking for that balance, which Anna really articulated earlier, between the strength of your program, how many challenging courses you're taking, and the grades that you get. So those are the 2 pieces that we're considering. Now, let me just mention one other thing. We are looking for you to take 5, is my hand all there? 5 major classes each year of high school. And they are English, history, math, science, and French. Now, why do I say French? I am an FFT, a former French teacher. So really, I'm only interested in whether or not you've taken French. Is it okay to take Spanish? Is it okay to take Chinese? Of course it is. But we're looking for students who are taking in those areas. We would also include AP art or AP music. Any of those classes would also be included in that number 5 classes. Sometimes students, and this happens all across the country, say, oh, I worked really hard my junior year. I'm going to take just a couple of courses in my senior year. Please avoid that. Please try to stay with a strong program, because the stronger you are in your senior year, the stronger you'll be in your first year of college. I think Anna deserves a round of applause. I don't know if you'd like to do the little reactions or this. Anna, well done. You know the transcript well, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now the second one is not extracurricular activities, as Ved had so hoped. But the second piece of importance is the one that you least want to talk about, unless your name is Colby. Colby, come off of your mute.
Hello.
Colby, tell us where you go to high school.
I go to high school at Amity in Woodbridge, Connecticut.
And what is the greatest thing about Amity for you?
Just the people, the community. It's a great community. I love everyone. I love the teachers, and yeah.
Do you know what I like about that? That's something that you love now and that you should look for in the college that you go to. That's a priority for you. So think about that as you're looking at colleges. What a nice thing to say. All right, Mr. Colby, do you love standardized tests?
No, personally, I think they're very stressful, as most people do. I think they are a very important indicator of where you are. Um, but then there's also a lot of negatives to them because many people can't afford the same. I feel as though the testing, the preparation is a key part of standardized tests. And if you can afford maybe a tutor or a lot of preparation and preparing, then I think you're better suited to do well and succeed on a standardized test.
Wow. That's a lot of important stuff, Colby. So you're saying that if students are financially advantaged and they have the opportunity to take review classes or to prepare for the test, they're likely to do better.
I do, except it's still a great indicator of where you are, but yes, I do.
All right. Do you think that a standardized test score is any kind of reflection of the quality of your character?
I do not. I think it's more your ability to take a test and not really as much your ability to know the material and your knowledge on a certain topic.
Mhm. So there are two primary sections for the SAT, and I think what are we, 4 or 5 sections for the ACT? And so the primary sections for the SAT are the critical reading, critical reasoning, and writing, something like that. And the other one is the math or quantitative section. Which section of those two is the best to prepare for? Like, where can you really make an impact?
I think personally, from my experience, the the English part where the grammar and that is the easiest just to improve because just starting to learn about different techniques that reoccur every test, it becomes easy and just a habitual action.
That is a very interesting idea. It is, of course, not exactly correct, but I still like it. So here you go. What you've learned is how to go about answering those questions on the test, right? And by the way, you don't only have to pay for a course to do it. You can use Khan Academy, which is free. There are ways to prepare for tests that cost you nothing. You can get I mean, you have to pay for a review book, get a review book and take a few tests. Make sure that you are completely familiar with the instruction sections of each part of the test that you're going to take, whether it's the ACT or the SAT, so that when you come to that instruction section, you don't have to think, how do I do this? Instead, as Colby has, you have an approach when you get in there. Maybe you're going to eliminate one of the answers. You're going to eliminate a second answer. You're going to look back at the text. Whatever your little strategies are, feel free to get those going before you get in there because it will reduce your fear. Now, when I took the standardized test, we were allowed to eat chocolate bars. That is no longer okay. Sugar is completely out, Colby. What should you eat before you take a standardized test?
I'm a firm believer in just eating a nice, well nutritious meal before. Um, you are allowed to bring a snack, so always have a snack and just, yeah, whatever you normally have, keep on that same schedule.
I love that plan. Now, should you go out the night before you have a standardized test and
No,
when
I
we're
think
finally allowed in the future to go out somewhere?
no, get sleep, be
Get
well.
sleep, do
Yeah.
well. Absolutely. And remember, it's not a reflection of the quality of your character. Now, let me just return to this. You can improve your score in the math section by simple practice. One of the things that's true for so many of you in your wonderful schools is that your math has passed by the math of the SAT or the ACT. You're way advanced from what they're actually asking you in that. So if you do a refresher of algebra 1 and 2, if you do a little refresher of geometry, you're going to feel more confident when you get to those tests. So that's something that you can really do. But I love that you're working on grammar. I love that you're working on how to solve it. And the other thing is, there is no drawback to learning new words. Absolutely none. Now, the students who do best on the critical reading and writing section of the SAT are students who read. Colby, do you like to read?
I do, especially when I have free time, but during the school year, it's very hard because of all the schoolwork, but I do like to read.
Good. So reading is going to be another big benefit to preparing for that test. How many times should you take your standardized tests?
I personally believe that you should go until you have a score where you feel comfortable, but not overly. I think no more than 3 is a
Okay, no
good.
more than, at least he has a
Yes.
limit on it. I thought maybe you're going to
Yes.
say 7
Oh no,
times.
no more
I
than
think the
3. But
record that I've seen personally was 9 times.
oh,
Okay, so that's really more than an extracurricular activity then. That's a big commitment, 9 times. So 3 times. Now, basically, the first time you take the standardized test, you're going to get a baseline score. And the second time you take it, you're going to do better. But statistics indicate that the third time you take it, you're going to be the same. So you can see that doesn't mean you're not, that's a statistic. That's not you personally. But the first time baseline, second time you're likely to improve, third time you're likely to stay at the same level. But I think 2 or 3 times are all very doable, right? And you know what? Your school counselors are wise. They're going to have a lot of good ideas for how students at school have done on the SAT and the ACT. They're going to give you the chance to do preliminary tests and give you a sense of where you fall and which test might work better for you. Should you take every test all the time? Should you take the ACT and the SAT?
no.
Well, Chris Brown just could not quit. He just took them all. He took my money. He took my time. He made me drive him to strange high schools all around the region to take these tests. So again, do not be Chris Brown. Be nice to your parents and just pick 2 or 3 times you're going to take it and be done. It is not an activity. It is not a socialization. It is not something that you put on your extracurricular list. Now, in one way, Colby, you're right. People who are at the very top end of testing are very brilliant, and people who are at the very bottom end of testing are not as talented. But in the big muddy middle, where most of us fall, your achievement is not always tied to your SAT. So if you get a score less strong than the one you thought you should get, what are you going to remember, Colby?
Just remember there are other ways to get into the school you want to get into, and it's not the biggest indicator. There are other things, and it shouldn't bring you down.
Remember, grades count. Now, let's go back to this and say that this year, it's been the exciting change is that almost every college in the country has had to say we are test optional because there's so many students who never got a chance to take the tests, whose test events were canceled and canceled and canceled, as some of yours have been. So what we're going to see in the coming year is that some schools are going to continue to do test optional. There were already about 250 colleges, very competitive colleges, that are test optional. And you can find that list at fairtest.org, fairtest.org. That list will give you lots of information about schools that are looking at standardized testing differently and who are not going to worry about standardized testing as much. Another question you can ask at schools that are test optional is, of the students who enrolled at that school, how many did not submit standardized testing? So at Union, about 40%, traditionally, not this year, it's going to be higher because of the lack of ability to test, but traditionally 40% of the students who did not submit standardized testing were applicants, and 40% of the enrolled class did not submit standardized testing. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how one college works for those pieces. So testing will be differently considered going forward. Some colleges are going to return to the same way they looked at tests before because tests are used for US News and World Report. And that's a bump. So that really is a big issue. Good. Colby, well done. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Now, next up is unexpected. You did not rank this very highly, but I'd like to speak to whoever it is who has the counselor recommendation. Bowen, come on.
Yep.
Which school do you go to, Bowen?
Pomperaug Regional High School.
And what's great about Pomperaug?
There's a lot of opportunities, both in academics, in extracurriculars, in the sports division. So it's really a wide variety of different paths that a student can take.
So nice. Bowen, who's your school counselor?
Mrs. Riley.
How often do you see Mrs. Riley?
More and more frequently, definitely in junior and senior year. And then in freshman and sophomore year, unfortunately, it wasn't too frequent, but it was occasional.
So do you feel she knows you pretty well?
I think that she does know me to a certain extent. She does know, where I want to go in terms of a major in college. what my course load is like. So to an extent, definitely. Maybe the specifics of how I'm going to go about the college admissions process, maybe she doesn't know all of that yet.
But she is there as a resource to you. And she's worked with a lot of students who've applied to college. She knows a lot about it. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to be sure that as you approach the college process in your senior year, you meet with her whenever you're supposed to. You make sure that you're engaged with her about your thinking. And it could be taking it a little bit further, what you are aspiring to and want in a college. Maybe what you want to major in, maybe how you want to create a community there. Just little tools that give her information to write you a wonderful letter. She's going to write about your experience at school. And as you say, she knows about your achievement. She's met with you many a times. She knows the courses you take and how you've taken advantage of what's offered at Pomperac. So now you just need to add a little flourish so she knows about your life and your aspirations. So if you know what profession you'd like to go to, or you know how you'd like to find your college community, or you have a special talent that is so far hidden from her, will you be sure to share that with her?
Definitely.
All right. Now she's going to write a nice letter for you in the fall of your senior year. How are you going to thank her?
Sincerely, definitely meet with her. Don't just send her an email. You can definitely do that while you're talking to her about making the letter. And then even afterwards, even after the admissions process is over, I think that a thank you would be nice.
Bowen, you've hit on such a wonderful thing. To speak to her in thanks after you've had your successes, when your accomplishments and enrollment in college are all yours, to go back and say, thank you for your help. By the way, you're going to have a couple of desperate moments in the college admissions process. I have the good fortune of watching on the Facebook all the problems. There's a college admissions thing, and people will say, oh my gosh, you won't believe what someone sent into a college and he's trying to get it back. There's some problem, this or that, or doesn't know how to manage this. Counselors are there to help you in those desperate hours. If you think to yourself, oh my gosh, did I miss a deadline? Oh my gosh, did something happen wrong? Your counselor can be a support and guide to you. So be sure to use your counselor in that helpful way. I love your thank you plans. That's perfect. Of course, always a nice basket of fruit or chocolate's out, right? We're going healthy all the way. Maybe some nuts. Some nuts would be right. So that's the thing to do. I'd add one other thing. When you prepare, some students do this. You don't have to do this for your college application, but if you prepare a resume where you've written down your activities and your involvements, different things that are important to you, if you do that, do share that with your counselor. That's another resource as they write the letter. So you're guiding them to some of the things that you have been a part of that they may not know as much about. I love that. Bowen, sounds like you have a wonderful relationship with your counselor. Keep it going.
Thank
All
you.
right. Who is my teacher recommendation? Autumn. Come on.
That is me.
Autumn, let's see if I can hear you, Autumn. Speak up.
Can you hear me now?
Little louder, Miss Autumn. Can you turn up your volume?
Here, 1 second. Let's see if I can fix it. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Where do you go to high school?
I go to the same high school as Bowen, Pomperac High School.
And so what do you like about Pomperac?
I definitely like all the things that Bowen mentioned, and I'm an athlete, so I definitely like being able to see my friends both in school and out of school. Of course, it's a little difficult right now because of COVID and all that, but it's definitely making me more looking forward to sports and kind of getting back to school like normal in my senior years.
Absolutely. And you know what? We are going to return. There'll be differences in how we live in the future, but we're going to return to a normal. Great, Autumn. So you've got teacher recommendations. So how many teacher recommendations should you send to a college?
I actually was talking about this with one of my teachers before. I think somewhere around like 2 to 3 is a good range, and it obviously should be from a teacher that you have kind of a connection with, or from a teacher that, like, if I wanted to go in a major in mathematics, I would want a recommendation from my math teacher or from my calculus teacher or something like that.
All right. So let's say you did want to major in mathematics and Union College requires one teacher recommendation. How many should you send?
I would definitely probably say at least one, maybe two, or if you want
Okay,
to.
so 1 or 2. So let's say you send 2. What subject areas are you going to choose for those 2? You're going to be a math major.
Yeah, I would probably choose for me if I've taken any AP classes, which right now I actually am. So I would send, for example, like my AP calculus teacher, I would ask her to write me a recommendation. And then next year I'll be taking AP statistics. So I would probably ask that teacher to also send me a
So
recommendation.
you would ask for 2 math teachers to write for you.
Yeah, probably.
You wouldn't, go ahead.
In my opinion, I'm obviously like in the beginning of kind of thinking about colleges, so I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, but this is one option. So the story is this. Do you remember that I'm a former French teacher?
Yes.
Okay, so what teachers are asked most frequently to write letters of recommendation?
Probably your core classes teachers.
Core classes, but be a little more specific. By the way, French is a core. I'm just mentioning that to you in passing.
I'm not sure. Maybe.
All right, I'll give you some choices. English, history, math, or science?
Probably science, maybe.
So interesting. The most commonly asked teachers are the English teachers.
Oh, really?
Why are they the most commonly asked teachers, Autumn?
Well, just because you know that they can write really well and probably they have good ways to.
Just as I was going to say to you, French teachers can write in French or in English. Just saying. Okay. So you've got that. Now, why would someone think a math teacher couldn't write?
Definitely not. I would just say like if it's your major, they kind of could show how good you are in those subjects, and especially if it's like a specialized college that you want to go to that like focuses more on or like has a really good math department or something like that, your math teacher can specify certain things that you're good at in that category that would make you more appealing towards the college that you want to go to.
I think it sounds great. Is it wrong to ask an English teacher?
Definitely not. Definitely
No.
not.
But when someone is burdened with a lot of work, what should you do about asking them?
You should probably make it, I guess, not your last resort, but definitely consider other options first.
Well, there's that, but you can also ask early. So one thing you said that I want you to think about is when you apply to college, you're going to start your college application in August. If you work for 15 minutes a day in August, you will have filled out most of your college application. You should not write your essay. Don't worry, we're coming to that in 15 minutes. But you should start working on your application. So when should you ask your teachers? At the end of your junior year or the beginning of your senior year?
I would probably start at the end of your junior year at the least, just so they can have like, if they're not going to start it right away, they would have the summer to kind of review it over or to get started on it summer when they actually like don't have that much work to do.
So Autumn, I think you're exactly right. And the reason is also the teacher is so close to you having been in that class. So sometimes people had a wonderful relationship with the teacher they had in 9th grade. That's a long time ago for someone to write about their experience with you directly. But if you're in your junior year and at the end of your junior year, you say to your AP calculus teacher, I'd love to have a college recommendation from you. Would you mind putting that together? What is the teacher going to say? That's great. I'd love to. So give the teacher time. Now, lots of teachers use a tool to ask you to complete a survey. But if they don't ask you that, you still may want to do something like that. Say, I love this. Here's your survey. I love math. Your class has been great. Here's why I've liked it. My favorite project was to give them a little impetus in terms of writing your recommendation. Remember when Bowen and I were talking, I said you could share your resume, but I don't want the teacher to write about your extracurricular activities. I want the teacher to write about your learning in that classroom and that discipline. So focus your information on that and say, here's what I really, really enjoyed. And because I want to pursue math, I'm asking you. So just a little short thing that gives them some tools going forward. And almost every recommendation letter now is submitted online. So you don't need to say to a teacher, you're writing a letter for me to go to Union, because you don't want the teacher to say, Autumn really wants to go to Union in the letter and have it sent to a different college, because Somehow, I don't know why other colleges would find that insulting, but they do. So you can just have a general letter written recommending you and supporting you.
Mhm.
I love the idea of 2 letters. 3 letters you need a special purpose for. 3 letters means you're taking away from the parts of the application that are your personal parts. That's all. Sometimes students want to send 4 or 5 letters. Can you think of a reason to send 4 or 5 letters?
Not really. I mean, obviously, you could tell that those students really want to get into that college, but if you want it to be with a teacher that you have a connection with, then obviously to the 1 or 2, maybe 3 that you have the most connection with would be the essays, or would be the teacher recommendations that would most influence the college.
I love that. That's going to work out fine. 2 recommendations is always going to be sufficient. Sometimes a third might be something that's special to you. You might be involved in band, you might be involved in theater. Occasionally, people get their next door neighbors to write to us and say that this person is a really good neighbor. Although we do appreciate neighborliness, that is not important to us in the evaluation. I mean, better than them saying you're a terrible neighbor, I guess, but that's not as important. But sometimes people have a special outside thing. Maybe they've been a CIT at a camp. Maybe they have a job and that job has a supervisor who can write for them. So the third letter might be kind of a swing letter depending on what your other interests are. But don't feel like you need to fill every spot. I can tell you that there's a thing in the Common Application, Coalition application, where a college can turn off the number of recommendations that come through. So you want to look at each college, might have a limit of 3 recommendations. You don't have to fill it to 3, but you want to get between 1 and 3. Good?
Yes.
How do you thank those teachers?
Obviously, like you would go in person if you're still in your when you get back from your senior year or whenever they would finish writing it. Swing by their class, maybe during lunch or a study hall that you have. Obviously, make sure that they're not in class, but I probably would bring like a gift basket full of like candy or cookie or something like that. Just to thank.
Candy Autumn, you're right up my alley. Again, healthy snacks. Now, absolutely, but also a note is meaningful.
Mhm.
Also, remember Bowen saying to return when the decisions come in and thank that teacher for writing on your behalf and say, wow, my college dreams have come true and you've been a part of that. Good?
All right.
Autumn, well done. Thank you to both of our recommendations people, for Bowen and Autumn. Now, a round of applause. And lots of nice thank yous from them too. I like their whole attitude toward teachers. All right. Ved, are you ready? Finally, you were so far up there and then you're so far down. Oh,
Yeah, I'm ready.
Ved, where do you go to high school?
I go to Trumbull High.
And what do you have to tell me about Trumbull High?
It's a great community. I really like the teachers. They have a good marching band and a lot of sports teams, so it's a pretty good school.
I have to say, a marching band is a fun thing. All right, Ved, why are extracurricular activities important to colleges?
It shows you it shows the admissions counselor something different than just academics. You know, it shows your character, who you are, things you actually enjoy. Maybe if you're like trying to major in like if you're like majoring in a certain thing, you can focus some of your extracurriculars into that major, and it shows you like experience maybe. Yeah.
Good. So the first thing we're trying to do is basically to say, do you make good use of your time? What is your number one most important activity, Ved, for you?
For me, I'd say volunteering is a big part of my summers. And then other
May
than
I
that,
stop for just a moment? Don't go on yet. Stop
oh
for a
sure,
moment.
okay.
So he just said volunteering. Would you shake your head if you think volunteering sounds good? Shake your head, yes. Volunteering. Does volunteering sound good? Absolutely. Ved, what do you do? Don't leave me hanging, Ved. Tell me what you do.
Okay. I volunteer at my local church. For ASP, I do a Appalachian Service Project. So I go to Tennessee and I
How
build
many
houses.
years have you done this?
I think 3-4 years.
And
apart
what
from this
kinds
year.
of projects do you do when you travel to the Appalachians?
We help like repair homes for like the underprivileged, like any like ACs, roofs, any patios and things like that.
Are you good at building?
I wasn't at first, but I slowly learned how to, do that.
So there's a great thing about this volunteering. It didn't happen just once. He's done it more than once. He has a commitment to it. He's learned something about building. We don't know because we haven't seen the results of his good work, but we trust that those buildings are still in place. Ved, are they still in place?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, thank heavens. Okay. So that is a great activity because you've done it over multiple years. The activities that we look for involve depth and breadth. Have you done it more than once? Now, can we return to a sad story of Chris Brown, please? So Chris Brown's activities looked like this: lacrosse, varsity lacrosse, JV lacrosse, teaching lacrosse to elementary school children, teaching lacrosse to elementary school children at the Catholic school, summer lacrosse team. And then his last thing was 1 hour of community service. Is 1 hour of community service good, Ved?
No, I don't think so.
Well, it's better than 0 hours. But 1
Yeah.
hour is pretty limited, isn't it? Shall I tell you what he did? He went with his church. He went to the assisted living center. And he sat for an hour with his own grandmother. Now, I think you should try to sit with your grandmother if you can. I think you should spend a little time with your grandmother. I'm all for that. Do you think that was community service?
No.
So in my greatest moment as a parent, my son called to me from upstairs and he said, "Mom, I'm filling out my college application." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I haven't done enough community service." And I said, "That is not because your mother did not give you every possible opportunity." And then he said, "True that," which is my most deep moment as a parent. So community service is your number one. Ved, what's your number two?
I play 2 instruments. I play saxophone and oboe.
I'm sorry, back up the train. One has got to be number two, not both of them.
Oh.
Can you pick between them?
Yeah, I'd say, okay. Wait, between the 2 extracurricular activities?
No, between the 2 musical instruments.
Oh, saxophone, definitely.
Oh, no, forget it. That's wrong. Here's why. He may love the saxophone. It may be his best interest instrument. It may be the number 2. But colleges are always looking for people who play the oboe or the bassoon. You should put oboe number 2 in your activities. Colleges need oboes. They need any reeded instrument. So will you remember that?
Yeah, I'll remember that.
All right. But ordinarily, you'd put them in the order of interest. So you'd say saxophone. Now, do you play in any groups?
Yeah, I play for GCTYO, the orchestra in Fairfield.
Yeah. You probably want to spell that out for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I will.
So it's Greater Fairfield, blah, blah, blah. You'd want to spell that part out. Good.
Yeah.
And how long have you done that?
8 years, I think.
Fantastic. Is that oboe or saxophone or both?
Oboe for like 3 years, saxophone for like, I think more than that, 6 years maybe.
It sounds great, doesn't it? Those things are wonderful activities. Sometimes students are concerned that a particular kind of activity needs to be on their roster. Ved, can you name any of those? I think I should have done.
Like sports.
Yeah, sports could be on it. For some people, community service might be on that. Always be specific in describing your activities. Just like he said, volunteering. If you just put volunteering at the top, would we know about his building ability? We would not. If he just said music, we wouldn't know that they're 2 instruments, right? So try to really tell us each thing in as much detail as you can in the few spaces that are allowed for your activities. There are probably 5 or 6 spaces for activities. How many activities should you have, Ved? Is there a number?
I'd say do like fill out the activities that you really enjoy like first, and then just if you have any more, then you can add them if you want.
Fine, but there's no rule for how many. Again, do you make good use of your time? But be sure now as you go forward to scribble down the things that are priorities for you, the things that are extracurricular activities you'd like to include, and be sure to start with the things that you're actively involved with now. I think it sounds great. I love your activities. They're really wonderful, but I'm sorry to switch the oboe up for you, but I think we should go a little bit higher just for your own benefit. Good?
Yep.
Thank you so much, Ved. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, next up is essay, Maria. Where are you, Maria? I see you.
Here.
Maria, this is an easy question. Who should write your college essay?
Kind of stumped. I'm kidding. You should write it yourself.
You should write it yourself. If you hadn't said yourself, I would have said I'm not available to write it. Who sometimes wants to get involved in the writing of a college essay?
Parents.
They certainly do. My parents got involved. Tragically, I got involved. It was a multi-generational disaster. We can talk about it. So, Maria, who should your essay be about?
Yourself.
Absolutely. Should it be something positive or negative?
Can be both.
Okay, can be, but give me more.
Well, it depends. Like it could be a positive situation that affected you or a negative situation that affected you. It matters how you dealt with it.
Yes. So if it's a negative situation, how should you come out at the end?
It should come out with a positive effect on your life or
Learning from it. Absolutely. And if it's a positive thing, how should it come out?
It should still come out as a positive lesson. What more you can learn from it.
Great. So sometimes students are really stumped by an essay. They're not used to writing about themselves. They're not used to the whole situation with writing about it themselves. How can you get started to get a good idea for your essay?
That I don't know.
Well, first you could look at the prompts. All of the prompts, both for the coalition and the common application, are available online. And you should just look at what some of those questions are, see what you think about them. But usually they're somewhat similar in the sense that they're going to be a significant experience in your life, an historical event that means something to you, something you'd like to change in the future, in the world, any of those things.
Yeah.
So should the essay be tied to things you've already done that you know?
I would say no, but I mean, you can really make a college essay out of anything.
I agree. Should you make it out of something that you've read online?
I guess you could. I don't know if it'd be the best choice, but
I just would like to tell you that I read approximately 2,000 college essays a year. So I have read many, 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 many college essays. And if it has been written somewhere else, or if you pick the style of something that was written somewhere else, assuredly I've seen it before. So you want to sit down and think about one or two qualities or things that you'd like to communicate as part of your college application. Just keep it small. So do you want to describe yourself as a compassionate person, as a giving person, as a curious person? Just put whatever word or words you pick on a sticky note on your computer, obviously not on the middle of your computer, but somewhere on the side. So you look at those words and you think a little bit, what I want the college to know about me is that I am an aspiring intellectual. What I want the college to know about me is I'm willing to work after I've had a failure to really learn more about myself. So just write down something as a preliminary thing, put it in a place where you can see it so you can think about what you're going to bring to your college essay. The other thing is, Maria, you are fantastic. Oh, I didn't ask where you go to school, Maria.
I go to Trumbull High.
And what's great about Trumbull High?
We have an agri-science program.
Do you do that?
Yes.
That would be a cool thing to tell about in an essay, by the way, if it's meaningful to you.
Yeah.
So, you can think of things you'd like to talk about in an essay that would be meaningful to you, but you think about one or two things, but you are whole, complete, and wonderful in yourself. Sometimes students are like, nothing crazy ever happened to me, so I can't write my college essay. Thank heavens nothing crazy ever happened to you, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what was the best answer? A lot of students who are seniors now are writing about coronavirus in their applications. And my favorite answer to this was a student who wrote the following. I meant to write a novel while I was at home, but I didn't do it.
Fair.
Like, thanks for sharing. But if someone did have an experience, I'd love to hear about it. If you tried something new, if you wrote poetry, if you learned some kind of new computer language, those things are all cool.
Yeah.
So just remember that what you do you don't have to have won a Nobel Prize to write a college essay. You just have to be your great self, and you are. Now, who is going to want to give you ideas for your essays? I'm just going to say, I think Maria's parents may be very, very good. I don't know for sure, but they may be good. Your parents will not want to be involved? They will?
Yeah, they will.
So you might say to them, what do you think is, great about me? And that's as much input as they can have. Wouldn't that be a good dinner table conversation? What's great about me
hey,
for me
Mom,
to write about?
what's some of my positive qualities?
I love that, but they need to encourage you during this process. It's stressful, college admissions. They got to think about good things about you. All right, so that's good. But I'm an admissions director. I gave my son ideas for his essay. One was to integrate the lyrics of Chris Brown's songs into an essay called I Am Not That Chris Brown. Or another one was how to write about how playing the viola in the orchestra is like playing defense on the lacrosse team. Now, sadly, Maria, he picked that second option. And he wrote about music and playing the viola, and it was beautiful. Absolutely fantastic what he wrote. And then he wrote about playing lacrosse. And by the way, I'm not against sports essays, but this was really dull. So we suggested to him he cut his essay in half. And then I looked at him and I said, is this the worst day of your life? And he said, it is one of the worst 3 days of my life. So you have to decide for yourself whether your parents should take a look at your essay and help you out. Who can check your essay for you?
Parents, counselors, English teachers.
Perfect. All perfect. What do you do if you give a friend of yours an essay to review? What's going to happen?
It gets reviewed.
Yeah, but do you think your friend's going to tell you the truth?
Well, if it's a good friend, yeah.
Oh, interesting. You got good friends. So my daughter was given a college essay by one of her friends. She told me it was awful, but she told him it was good. Don't worry, he's a doctor now. Everything's fine. But it was like she was uncomfortable in giving him feedback about the essay. So watch out in those environments. And the other thing is we all remember what our parents said to us in these times. So that's another factor for each of us differently. Some people love to have their parents give them feedback on writing, and some people are not so keen. All right. Do you have ideas for what you might write about?
One of my ideas would be I took an EMT training course over the summer.
Wow. What a great thing to do.
Be like, during COVID, I took a leap of faith and took the first step towards my dream career, which is being a pediatrician.
Woof. Do you like it? I like it. Plus, a leap of faith is a great start to an essay because it's a little tricky. You don't know where you're going with it.
Would you accept your school if I wrote about that?
Would I accept you? Your essay, this is interesting. Many students go into admissions committee with no decision. Many students in the admissions committee, their essays are read aloud because the power of the effort that they made in that essay is going to bring their decision up to an admit. So you could do that. That could work for you. Good?
For my name.
All right. Let me just ask you one more thing because we've got to move on. How many drafts should you write of your essay?
I would say 2 rough, 1 final.
Perfect. That's what I'm for. Don't be writing 12 drafts of your essay. You won't be happy with that. But if you want to write 4, I guess you could. But I love your plan. 2 drafts, 1 final sounds fantastic. Maria, I think you've got a very good plan. It's about you. It's about your leap of faith. It's very positive in a challenging time. So good for you. Thank you, Maria. All right. Interview Elizabeth. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
So some colleges, especially small colleges, offer interviews. Should you take advantage of having an interview?
Yes, I think you should. Because it allows the college to get to know you, who you truly are, and if you're like a sociable person, if you're a little shy, and what your interests and personalities like.
Love it. One thing you're going to find when you fill out your application is that it's very thin. You're just going to list your activities. You're going to write one essay. It's going to feel like you're not able to tell your whole story. So what kinds of questions do you imagine I might ask you in an interview?
One basic one might just be like, what do you like? What are you like? And you would get to go off on that. What do you want to be? What do you hope to get out of this college? Um, what would some interest at this college be? And just what do you want to be in the future?
I think you've brought up one important thing to think about in an interview. If you visit a campus and have an interview on campus, you should have a tour and the group information session before the interview. So if you are asked a question like what makes you interested in our college, you have a lot of good answers for that because you've already been in the group session and the tour. If you're doing something online, a virtual interview, do your research before you go into that interview, especially if you're being interviewed by a graduate of the college. Graduates of the college do it for love. And they just want to hear that you also love what they love. So the more research you've done, the better. I'm going to ask you what you're taking in school, what you like about your high school. Elizabeth, where do you go to high school?
I go to Amity High School.
And what do you like about it?
I'm not in the arts. I played the violin, but I'm not like a theater person. But I think we have an amazing arts program, and just the atmosphere at our school is it's really amazing.
Wonderful. That's a question I'm actually going to ask you in an interview about your high school. What are the changes you'd make there? What are the things you like about it best? I'm going to ask you again, your academic interests, what has been a favorite class, maybe what's been a favorite teacher. Tell me about your extracurricular activities. And then we're going to have much more time than we had even with VET to hear about what you're engaged in and involved in and what you care about. That's what we're really looking for. There's a colleague of mine who said, an application without an interview is in black and white, but if we have the benefit of an interview, it gives us a chance to have it in living color because we can really learn your stories and hear a little bit about your interests. Interviews go really well almost all of the time. The only reason not to have an interview would be, Elizabeth.
If you're sick, possibly.
Oh, that would be a very good reason not to have an interview. Yes, that's true.
If you're having surgery.
Oh, don't do that. I don't want to go into the operating room with you. No. Those are two good reasons. But you know what I really think of? So I have a niece and she is a wonderful student, but she is very shy. As much as I am outgoing, she is on the other side. And it would be just too hard for her with someone she didn't know. So for some of us who are a little more reserved, an interview may not be the thing. But for people who like to talk and would want to tell their story, please take advantage of that opportunity where it exists. Now, there are two kinds of interviews. You can have an interview with admission staff people, and also those staff people are including 12, here at Union, we have 12 seniors who offer interviews. And they, of course, are fantastic because they can tell about their own experience at the school. So that's a wonderful opportunity. And all the interviews are formal and professional, and you want to dress nicely and you want to behave nicely in those interviews. Another set of interviews are ones that are offered by graduates of the college all over the country. And that's true for many, many colleges. And so then you have, again, someone who loves the college who's doing that interview for love of the college. Elizabeth, I asked some Miss America questions in my interview, so I'm going to just go through them quickly. And the last one you can answer. Colby's already answered it for us. What do you think is one of your better qualities? What would you like to improve in? What has been your proudest moment in your high school years? And then I'm going to say to you, do you like to read, Elizabeth?
I do like to read.
There we go. And then you should probably mention a book that you have actually read. That's key to your success. Will you do that?
Yes, I've read The Book Thief.
The Book Thief, a great book, one I've read, which I would love to talk about. So that will be a nice entree for us, right?
Yes.
Absolutely great. All right. After the interview is over, what do you do?
I think you talk about it with your parents and, hopefully it went well. I think that you just have to wait and see how it goes.
You can send me a little email making reference to our interview. So you can say, oh, I remember we had this wonderful conversation. Thank you, Anne or Mrs. Brown, whatever you like, for this wonderful conversation we had about The Book Thief. Or I enjoyed learning this about Union. Just be specific in that interview. It's so interesting. I had occasion to speak to a large alumni group, and there's a married couple. They met at Union, and I interviewed both of them, and they were absolutely shocked that I remembered their interviews. And it's that kind of reference that really helps as you go forward. Thank you, Elizabeth. Remember, the interview would be for a job, the most important part. For the college application, it's the least important part in all the things we've done so far, because not every college can offer every student an interview. And the small colleges are more likely to interview, and the large universities are less likely to interview. So that personal contact is going to mean a little bit less as you go forward there. Thank you. Thank you. Miles, Miles, you got the tough category, special considerations. All right, Miles.
I'm ready.
So what sport would you like to play, Miles? Pick your sport.
I'm a track and field guy.
Oh, what?
Track and field guy, like hurdles
Track and
high
field
jump.
guy. All right.
Hurdle.
So if the coach for track and field calls you every day, does the college want you?
I mean, I would assume so, because it seems unlikely that they would spend that much time on something considered would actually.
All right, I'm going to agree with you, but I'm just going to change that a little bit. The coach wants you. Should you visit the admissions office when you come to visit the college?
Yes.
Absolutely. Please come to the admissions office. Take advantage of everything the admissions office offers. Make sure you don't want to take a tour with a coach. You want to take a tour with a student.
Right.
Then you want to meet with a coach. Why do you want to meet with the coach?
Well, just so you can get a sense of what you're like, and also you can probably get more of a sense of the team chemistry and just the atmosphere of that program, just maybe something that you'd be interested in.
I love that plan. Also, for Division III schools, most coaches are going to tell you the truth. In fact, I think in Division I, they're going to tell you the truth. They're going to say, Miles, you could be a fantastic contributor here in our program. Or they're going to say, gee, Miles, you could try out for the team. Listen carefully to what a coach says. Sometimes it's going to be very helpful to your application for those few pushes that a coach has in an application process. And sometimes it's just going to be like you have a wonderful extracurricular activity that you would bring to the college with you. Some coaches are going to look for 2 or 3 players who are going to make a tremendous difference in their program. And they're really, really going to encourage those students, and they're really going to ask admissions to take a special extra look at those students. Now, do you know, I hate to say it this way, but you know you're supposed to do the broken leg rule. If you were to come to college as a track star and then break your leg, would you still like that college? Do you think that that's possible to do that, both things?
I think absolutely, because I mean, above all else, I mean, you could enjoy a phenomenal sporting experience there. At the end of the day, it's unlikely to be an Olympian. You probably need an actual career. So, you should be learning in the classroom as much as you're, learning on the field.
Right.
That's what you do.
Try to do both things. I think it can be challenging because sometimes sports and colleges have separate tracks. People like a coach, but they're not always thinking about the college. So those 2 tracks are both things you have to consider as you're looking at colleges. All right, Miles, second special consideration. Both of your parents went to Union College. Should we admit you?
Well, not simply based on that. If your identical clone and whatever, a different parents didn't go, are also applying, then yeah, I would say obviously promote the legacy, but otherwise don't just make an exception simply based on that.
So one of the results of the scandals that took place primarily in California and nearby, even in Connecticut, is that schools are looking at some of these things and saying, are these things important to us? For some schools, they're only going to consider legacy if you apply early decision. If you don't apply early decision, they're not going to use that in their calculations at all. So you may hear from a college that says, wow, we love that you applied to our college that your parent went to. This is fantastic, but it only is going to matter in your application were you to apply early decision. So that's a lot of questions. I think it's great to visit your parents' colleges because you can hear all about their college life and learn an incredible amount about your parents. But you have to decide whether that college is right for you independently of that experience. Sometimes that's hard. People have a long tradition in a particular school. Try your best to look at it with fresh eyes. Ask if you can go with the parent who's not the graduate and take a look and think about it from that perspective as well. But one thing we're going to do is if you're tied to the college, if you have a connection to the college and your parents love the college, well, we're happy to see you. We're happy to talk to you. But it's not going to make up for inadequate preparation or anything like that. We want students to be successful overall. But you're right. If you had an identical twin, maybe that gives you a little push. Happily, no student really. There are people who are twins who I guess are that way, but mostly you're your own person. All right, Miles, last one. Your grandmother just gave the college $100 million. What do you think?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Why? Your grandmother's not going to give the money, or is that not going to get you into college?
Oh, well, my grandmother is definitely not going to give the money, but it should also not help you get into college.
Miles, you're very high-minded. Why?
Well, because, well, for obvious reasons, that would make it like a classist, acceptance policy, which obviously there's some degree where, like we were talking about before with standardized tests, where finances depend on your ability to like put together a resume. But at the same time, you shouldn't just blatantly be giving the school money and then expect an acceptance.
By the way, we do love big donations, but we don't need to have things tied to them like that. That's not necessary. I think that that is a great thought. You're all thinking about the role that affluence and privilege play in college admissions and in many parts of our lives. Remember, you're going to see many opportunities at colleges for first generation students, for students from less affluent backgrounds. That's very important in most colleges. But you're right. Your opportunity to take advantage of the opportunities is also something for you to reflect on. Nicely done, Miles. Round of applause, all. You did a fantastic job. And you had so many wise things to say. So now let's just do the last part and say quickly, what is the role of the student in applying to college? Students, you should lean into discomfort. Look at some things you haven't thought about. Think about what you want to be and do. Don't hesitate. You should get good grades and try to improve. I think we discussed that with Anna. You should challenge yourself to take the top academic program which works for you while you're still getting sleep and staying healthy, right? You should find the things you like to do. Ved has ideas if you need them. He's ready, right? It's wonderful to find the things that you care about and like to do. Colleges do not predict that you're going to do exactly the same things, but we do know that you're going to be engaged and involved. And your parents, they're responsible for creating that space for you to do this, for your emotional growth, for your physical health, and to encourage you. And the hardest part for your parents, and believe me, parents, it's going to be challenging not to give your opinion, not to share exactly what you think on the tour, not to ask the questions we talked about earlier. So be sure that you are involved helping your children to research opportunities. Learning about financial aid is a great opportunity for parents, and talking about those things that matter to you, whether it's cost of college, whether it's distance from home, whether a faith tradition is important to you as you look at colleges. Try to learn about those things as parents so that you can add that to the discussion, but not lead the discussion. Students, attend college events. Go ahead and start doing it now. Work toward a list of 10 or so colleges that are very interesting to you. And please fill out your own application. I'm just going to mention last year I read an application, student's name William Smith, nickname Lauren. So clearly his mom, Lauren, filled out his college application. So try not to do that. Be sure that you do it yourself. You're going to have some wonderful times together in this process. It's a chance for you to share with your parents, students, and for parents to share with you what great things they think about you as you develop and you grow to being adults and independent. They're going to want the best for you. And you want to think about what you want your college experience to be. Do you want to make sure you have a place where you can grow and add things and become more committed to your interests or learn different interests. And your family is going to want to celebrate your successes with you. And they're going to be completely willing to yell at admissions directors like me for places that don't admit you, or to do a ceremony of backyard burning of denial communications. Anything like that is fine. But be sure to share in this experience, to talk to your families about what you're thinking about, to know that they're very proud of you as you grow through these years and get ready to go. All good? Thank you so much. I fear we've gone a little long, but thank you for your full attention and for the wonderful students who joined us from so many great schools. I love that you all think well of your high schools. It's great. Thank you, Mrs. LaPlante.
Thank you very much. So just again, another round of applause for the students. Thank you for volunteering to be with us today, putting yourselves out there in a virtual way and being open to the presentation. And thank you so very much for sharing your wealth of knowledge about college admissions and your wonderful sense of humor in helping our families, students, and their parents understand a little bit of this process. So
I'm glad for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. So, and thank you all for watching. We hope this has been an informative experience for you, and we look forward to seeing you at the upcoming